Regis's only successful punch that can land somewhat consistently, especially early on, was the jab. And I'll give a quick example of why that shot has success. And it's similar to what I said in the pre-fight analysis. And that's a little bit of a looping jab, but it's still kind of a straight punch kind of coming over top. And so I mentioned how the jab from a southpaw can come over top of Haney's jab. That power jab over top could be an issue. But even though Regis isn't much of a jabber in that sense, it could still be there as an option, and especially if he's throwing out the jab, bringing it back to a lower position. That's something I've always talked about. And then we'll see a similar thing right here. This is kind of a better example. I think Prograis is going to throw it right over the jab, so boom, comes over top. But to be honest, I'm not really going to talk too much about the Regis's jab, although it was his only successful shot, because Haney really took away the jab after a while, primarily with distance control. But it was some evasion, upper body movement, but mostly it was Regis not being able to close the distance due to Devin Haney's superior footwork, which we'll talk about in a quick second. I said I don't think this fight would look like Kambosos, but I acknowledge the possibility of it because of the same fundamental flaw. That lower lead hand and them leaning over that front foot, putting that weight, sticking it in the ground. Before we dive fully into that, I'll connect it to the concept of weight distribution and Regis's feet being stuck in the mud, which limited offensive and defensive options. One of the beautiful things about Haney is that he's not much of a static fighter. I'll use his feet for example. Sometimes he can plant his feet, sit down, walk you down, and sometimes he'll do what he does right here. So in this particular example, what he's going to do, he's going to throw out that jab. Well, he's stepping forward first, so he's closing the distance. He throws out that jab. What does Regis do? He responds by lowering to the inside. He keeps slipping to his left. He did that repeatedly throughout the fight, and Haney's knowing that. So you're gonna see when he throws the one, he follows up with a two. Simple combo. But what's his feet doing? When he threw that jab, let me go back because I wasn't talking about that. When he threw that jab, look at how this lead foot was already stomping, coming around that backside edge. And so when Regis is moving his body, he's stuck in that position. And the cross, the jab, if those land, that's cool. But really what they do is they disguise him shifting around this backside, taking this dominant angle. And so now what's Regis, he's in a bad position where he's stuck. He shifted all his weight here. He's stuck right there. And Haney is already shifting around, getting into a dominant position, framing with that other arm to throw the left over top and land a good shot because he was at a better angle, where Regis, the only thing he could do was put his guard up. He was stuck. So that's what I mean about, especially when I talk about his footwork improvements, which we're going to focus on a lot in part two. I'm trying to keep these short, go piece by piece, because I like that style more. But yeah, in this example, he used Regis's concrete shoes against him. So another thing I talked about was Haney was going to have a lot of success with those step back counters the entry, and that type of instance, that type of example, this type of moment in a fight is one of the key dynamics that I think is going to allow Devin Haney to be successful. As Regis is trying to close the distance, the different kinds of counters Devin is going to have waiting for him, I think is going to slow him down. It's probably why he's going to win a pretty clean decision, especially with the right hand coming over top. And here's one example. So Regis is trying to close in with the left hand. That didn't find that much success tonight. What does Haney do? He measures, he steps back, measures with the left, kind of blinding, and then lands the cross after. That blinding jab has set up a lot of the dangerous punches in this fight that were hurting Regis. Because like Regis said in the interview, he's like, it's the punches you don't see. And Haney was blinding him with the jab, following up with the cross like how he did right there. But he did it after stepping back, controlling distance. Regis is going to try and close distance again. This time, what's Haney do? Instead of throwing a cross, he throws the uppercut instead. So it's a variety, different shot selection depending on what he sees in his opponent's guard. The hole in the guard determines the punch he's going to choose. So before, he was in a position where he could throw over top. He throws over top. This time he sees an opportunity up the middle, and that's what he throws. So it's a variation. And before we go to part two, I'll talk about what I really like about this performance. This wasn't a game of cat and mouse where one man was always chasing the other, because at times Devin Haney was performing as the hunter. He was the one doing the damage and dishing out the punishment, but at the same time he also played evasion, right? So he was the cat and the mouse. He was able to escape when he needed to, but he was also doing damage and being the hunter when he was supposed to as well. That's what I mean, dynamicism, right? Not just doing one thing, being able and capable of doing multiple things, which is why this was such a masterclass. And so part two is coming immediately after this. Get ready for that. Notifications on Fights and Science Immortality Serum out.